Hey, Motorman here. If you're new to this channel, I'm a motor officer instructor, now retired. I'm also the maker of the Ride Like a Pro video. I've got 22 schools around the country that teaches the police motor officer techniques to you, the average rider. And we also talk about on this channel products that I think you'd be interested in, as well as doing road tests on motorcycles. And lately I've been getting a lot of people asking me about what's the best motorcycle to buy for beginner or new riders. And that would cover also re-entry riders. Those are people that maybe rode 10 or 15 or even longer years ago, just getting back into motorcycling. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to talk about the top 5 in no particular order. So let's take a ride and we'll talk. Well, okay, so here's my top 5 beginner, new rider, or re-entry rider motorcycles. Now there may be others that I haven't mentioned here, but the main reason I'm mentioning these 5 motorcycles is because they either come standard with ABS or ABS is an option, and I believe ABS is mandatory, especially for newer riders. Even experienced riders, if you're going to get a new motorcycle, get one with ABS, pay the extra $700 or $800, whatever it is a lifesaver. So there's not going to be any particular order that I'm going to mention these motorcycles, so I'm not saying one is better than the other, but these are the bikes that come immediately to mind. Now, if you've taken the beginner course, let me say this first, if you've taken the beginner course and you breeze through it, no problem, one of these bikes should be the ones you should look at. If you took the beginner course and you really struggled and barely made it, and those little 150cc bikes or whatever they give you, I heard they're even allowing the 125cc Groms, which is really a mini bike. They're allowing you to go through the course on those bikes. If you had trouble in that course and just barely made it, don't get anything bigger than a little 250 or 200, because you need to practice for quite a while on one of those bikes before you get to a mid-size bike, because that's the motorcycles I'm going to recommend are all mid-size motorcycles. So we'll start at the top with the Triumph Bonneville street version. That is I think it's 900 cc's, 5-speed transmission, and ABS is standard. The bike weighs about 450 pounds, thereabouts, so it's fairly light. It fits a wide variety of riders because you're in it's a standard motorcycle, so you're in a standard upright position. So even if you're a taller rider, the bike should fit you well. And if you're a shorter rider, it should fit you as well, because it's an easy touch to the ground, and I know that's important to a lot of newer riders. Second would be the Triumph Scrambler, which is virtually the same bike as the Bonneville Street, except it's got the high pipes, and you could do some minor off-roading with it, and it's just a little bit more money than the Bonneville Street, so I would recommend that. And also ABS is standard equipment. ABS is a lifesaver, folks. So many motorcycle crashes occur because of improper braking. People tend to lock the rear tire, slide on the ground. Everybody's heard somebody say, yeah, I had to lay it down. What they really mean is, I don't know how to brake quickly. I panicked and I slammed on the rear brake and slid on my ass. Don't let that happen to you. Crashing to avoid a crash is a bad idea. So ABS, mandatory. The next would be the Kawasaki Vulcan 650. That motorcycle, they have different options for the handlebars and the seat position, and even the pegs, so that they'll fit any rider. I don't care how big or how short you are. And that 650 motor is actually a sport bike motor, so it has all kinds of power. You could easily cruise the highways with it. Around town, it's great. And it's an easy to ride bike. Now there is a standard version without ABS. I don't recommend that one. I recommend always, if you got the option, get the ABS. Next on the list is Sportster 883, of course with the ABS option. I believe there's 2 models this year of the 883. I could be wrong, it might be just one model, but really any of the 883s with ABS, they weigh about 550 pounds. It's on the heavy side prefer the mid-size motorcycles, but easy motorcycle to ride, easy to handle. Turns in really nice. I use one as a trainer for my Ride Like a Pro course, and I've rarely had people with any serious problems on that motorcycle. At least it's not intimidating. Now, if you're moving up from, if you took the beginner course and you took it on a 125cc Gram, which again is a mini bike, yeah, getting on the 883 is going to feel big. So what you first need to do, in fact, what you should do is, with any of these bikes that I mentioned, is get yourself to a parking lot. Practice low speed handling, because that's where everybody has a problem. Nobody has a problem balancing the bike at 60 miles an hour. It can't fall over at that speed. Everybody has a problem at low speeds. So practice using your head and eyes, friction zone, a little bit of pressure on a rear brake. And I would start practicing some big figure eights, the slow race, some U-turns if you use the lines of the parking lot. In fact, I show you how to set up a course with very minimal amount of cones or markers in my Shortcuts to Riding Like a Pro video. You could use that, watch it, and then go out and set it up using those parking lot lines. And then spend at least a couple of hours in a parking lot doing that before you even venture out on the road. Now, the Sportster is not one you can get a two-up seat for it, but and passenger pegs. But I don't recommend that motorcycle if you're going to be riding two-up because of the very little suspension travel. The other bikes I mentioned, yeah, they'd be fine for two-up. Next one I'd say to go ahead and take a look at, maybe if they let you take a test ride on, is the Honda Rebel 500. That again is a mid-sized bike weighing under 500 pounds. You've got enough power on that motorcycle to cruise on the highway. It's not meant for that purpose, but no problem doing 70, 75 miles an hour in fact, on any of the bikes I've mentioned. And ABS is an option. Once again, go for that option. Don't cheap out on your safety. Last but not least in my top 5 is the Yamaha 900. Now they've changed the name of this bike several times, but it's they've got, I believe, like a Scrambler version of it and a standard version. It looks very much like a Sportster, a little bit lighter than a Sportster, smoother motor. Power-wise, probably about the same as a Sportster. And again, I wouldn't recommend it if you're going to do any two-up riding. If you're going to do two-up riding, probably the Bonneville would be the best choice, or maybe the Vulcan 650. And before you put a passenger on your motorcycle and venture out on the road, you should be able to do every one of the exercises I show you in my Shortcuts to Riding Like a Pro video. You should be able to do all of them with a passenger on board. If you can't, don't put a passenger on that bike. Their life depends on your skills. If your skills are lacking, if you're a very timid rider, don't put anybody on the back of that motorcycle until you've overcome your fears and you've gained some skill. So I hope you liked this. I hope you enjoyed it. You learned something by it. Again, this is just my opinion on these. But I hope you subscribe and give me a thumbs up. Until next time, this is the Motorman signing out.